Welcome to the Sypnotix. I'm Alex, and this is a review of the 2022 dual-motor Polestar 2. And before we jump into this, I just wanted to tell you guys that we own this car for about like half a year now, and what you're about to see from Lita is her review about like a month or two ago, and we weren't able to publish this because of certain potential legality things, but all of that has been cleared now. All our thoughts in this video is our own, even though we have talked to people and reps from different car companies, including Polestar, and there's no influence on that, period. This is all strictly as owners of the Polestar 2, as our personal car, our thoughts on this. And if you want a more in-depth review, I have a written in-depth review that's concurrently going to be published at Sypnotix.com with this video, so I'll have it in the annotations as well. It's going to be more in-depth, but Lita and I have very similar thoughts on the car, so basically what you're going to see here, I just go way in more detail in our full review, so head over to Sypnotix.com if you want to learn more about the Polestar 2 if this video doesn't fully help you out.
All right, now we are in the back seat of the Polestar 2. I actually think it's pretty spacious. My height is about 5'6", 5'7". There's a good amount of headroom for me, at least. I think anyone who is maybe 6 foot or taller will probably feel a little tight up here, but for someone about my size or shorter, it's plenty comfortable. As you can see in the back right here too, I have a good amount of leg room in between the front seat and my knees. I can stretch them out a little bit more. I don't feel like I'm cramped. I feel very spacious in here. And I think part of why I feel so spacious is because of this giant glass sunroof that extends all the way from the back to the front. It's really nice. It feels very open. I love that you can see the trees, the greenery. It just makes a very comfortable passenger and driving experience. So when we were originally considering the Polestar 2, I actually wasn't super impressed with the interior because I was like, oh, it's cloth. It's not even like a faux leather sort of thing. And honestly, since having the Polestar 2 as my daily driver now, I actually really enjoy it. It is cloth. It's kind of a distinct material though. It feels very smooth, feels very sporty, especially in the back seat. It's just very roomy and it feels very ergonomic. Like you feel like you have a lot of lumbar support both in the front and back seats, and it just feels really good. All right, so along the door frames of the Polestar 2, you have this really nice stitching that continues onto the door frames as well. A lot of the very same material that you see on the seats. It's very comfortable, and then you have these Volvo-esque door handles. As many of you know, we have the Tesla Model 3. People do not get confused at how to use the door handles on this vehicle. And then you also have your speaker along the side and then some accented frames as well. I have to say, everything feels pretty good. It doesn't feel like a super luxurious vehicle, but for the $50,000 to $60,000 range, it feels pretty good. And then I do want to also add that along the door frame itself on this side by the seats, you do feel some amount of plastic. My dad likes to sit in here and knock on the car all the time. You do feel some of it, but overall, I do feel like Polestar masked it a good amount.
It's Alex once again, and we're going to talk about the outside of the Polestar 2. I absolutely love how the Polestar 2 looks on the outside. There's no other way to explain it. It's a combination of like futuristic simplicity and a prototypical classic compact executive car. The minute the car debuted in 2019, I was instantly attracted to the aero design. But I do find it ironic that Polestar gave the Polestar 2 a rather like boxy roofline when the Volvo S60, which this car was based on the platform, has a more like aerodynamic slope design seen on most sedans. I'm not complaining though, because the PS2 is a perfect mix of familiarity and individualism. I love it. From some angles, it looks like a dime a dozen BMW, while the other angles, it's like whenever you're looking at it, people are going to be, what are you looking at? I've been asked what kind of car this is by strangers like so often. It's really cool driving a car that you don't see every 5 cars on the freeway like some other EV brands now. I also love the styling of the Thor headlights that was carried over from Volvo. Combine that with the rear U kind of shaped tail light bar, and it's like an idealistic match. They just get how to make a professional looking vehicle. We have the long range dual motor all-wheel drive model with 2 of the 3 packs, and part of that comes with the pixel LED headlights and all that good stuff on the Pilot package.
Okay, so in the trunk, there are two ways to actually open it. One is through the traditional button that lives right here, right above the license plate frame. And then the other way is to kind of do that kick motion, ta-da, where the trunk then opens. And there's a ton of space in the back. The trunk is surprisingly my favorite part of the Polestar 2. And it's really spacious on the inside, and there's a lot of really smart compartments that Polestar thought about when they were designing the vehicle. So first we have kind of this big space right here. We have a net in the right-hand corner where you can tuck things in. As you can see, I have my umbrella back here. And then along this side, the left-hand side, you have a 12-volt little port right here. And then also this elastic port for maybe any bottles or any miscellaneous things that you have. And then actually my favorite part is if you tuck this portion open. Originally, when we did the test drive of the car, the gal was telling us that you can actually put your wine bottles over here, which I thought was genius. I do this with my shopping bags. You can actually put a lot of stuff and just line it up here so that it stays in place and doesn't move around in the trunk. And there's also two hooks on each side as well. Now, if you fold that down, there's now a compartment right here that you can lift up, and ta-da! Even more space for shopping bags or anything you want to hide underneath the trunk there. So plenty of space. There's also a lot of room to sit in the vehicle as well, if you so desire. And then of course, you can knock the seats down for even more space if you need to as well. So plenty of room for options. We have two medium-sized dogs that can sit here very comfortably in the back. We put their seat belts back here, and there's a lot of room and a lot of flexibility.
Polestar does get some additional gravy points because there is additional storage in the front of the car underneath the hood, because there is a frunk. But it's very small, you can't really store too much stuff, and it's very difficult to open. Unlike Tesla, where you can open it through the app, here, unfortunately, you have to open it like an ICE car would open their hood by doing it on the front driver's side and opening the latch.
Okay, so we are in the driver's seat of the Polestar 2. I actually really love driving this car. Honestly, it's super comfortable. I feel spacious. It feels roomy. There's a lot of very small details that Polestar included on here that just really make the overall experience incredibly comfortable. So starting from the steering wheel, it feels really nice. It feels super premium. I love the stitching. It feels very high quality. I love the minimal Polestar logo smack in the center. And then over here you have kind of your cruise control settings. And then you can also activate your Google Assistant from the right-hand side along with your volume rockers. And then you can kind of skip and move through your settings on this side as well. And then what I especially love is this special driver's dash that you can see. So on here, you can see the battery level of the vehicle, you can see the range, you can scroll through maps. It's just a very great experience, especially if you have, your Spotify or your music on kind of the main console, then you can still continue to see map directions on your driver's console as well. And that's super, super helpful. One thing I don't like is that the windshield wipers have to be manually turned on, which I wasn't expecting. I thought you could automatically turn them on, but it's not. You have to manually start and stop them. And then the rest of the driver's seat feels very comfortable. And I think it has to do with the way Polestar made the car and the stitching and everything, but it just feels very good. There is a bit of a bump in the front dash over here that sometimes makes it feel a little bit tighter. I kind of wish that it didn't have that as much, but I think that's due to the screen right here that they needed to include that.
All right, Alex here, and we're going to talk about the infotainment system on the Polestar 2. So when the Polestar 2 first came out, it was actually the first car to use Google's Android Automotive, because we all know what Android Auto is, but we haven't seen Android Automotive until this car came out. And the way they have it laid out on this car is slightly different than what people are probably used to. People are probably used to how Tesla does it and how traditional OEMs do it, with all the icons just in a pattern that you just swipe and touch with your touchscreen or your knob. Polestar
It's kind of like a tablet. So if we look over here on the actual tablet here on this display, everything is separated into 4 quadrants. So if we go into our home screen, we have what Polestar thinks is the most important to your driving experience. The top left corner is your maps. Everybody needs maps. It's powered by Google Maps. So if you click on it, it's Google Maps. You can also actually look up places like charging stations built in for this particular car. So, Polestar 2 cannot charge on Tesla superchargers. So all we can get right now are EVgo's and Charge Points, Electrify Americas. So it is really specific to this car, which is nice, and that's incorporated with the system here. It's not like PlugShare where you have to filter it out yourself on the app. It's all built in there. Now, the top right quadrant is dedicated to Google Assistant, which was a big part of Polestar and Google's partnership. And you basically control most of this car using that. You turn on the music, turn on the air, turn on the seat heaters. If you have a smart home and you have a smart garage door, you can actually open your garage door using Google Assistant once you set it up with all your smart home stuff. On the bottom right is the phone quadrant. So if you click on it, you can get your recents, your contacts, your keypads to type. It's basically your phone interface here to type in for your calls. On the bottom right is your entertainment stuff. So Spotify, podcast apps, NPR, things like that. This is where it belongs. If you click on it, obviously it opens it up into its main interface. Now, if you actually look at it deeper, each one of these quadrants are the apps that you have downloaded. So we've actually explored the Play Store on here. And as you can see, there's actually not too many apps. This is pretty bare bones right now, but there is an app store. So that is a lot more than what a lot of other car companies can offer right now. So, I know everybody's like, oh, but Android Auto and, Apple CarPlay, but it's not built into the car. Anything you have to sync with the car through either wireless or over cable, there always is potential issues. And you guys know what that's like out there. This is built into the car. So I do like having an app store, and it's going to improve. There's already been new apps that have been installed have been available since we've gotten this car 6, 7, 8 months ago. So I do see improvements all the time.
So when you look at the center console of the Polestar 2, there's enough physical buttons for you to know what's important. So you have a physical parking button, you also have physical volume rocker, and then play and pause button, and then you have your defroster and hazard lights on here. So if you are not a fan of how everything on a Tesla is on the screen, this is kind of a good middle ground for you. Now on the Polestar 2, everything else other than these buttons basically takes place on the screen. And I found this to be pretty good. I don't really use the volume rocker, to be honest, much physically here. I use it more on the steering wheel. But if you have a lot of passengers, it is nice to have it there and to be able to play and pause quickly from there. And the center console, I do like, but it gets extremely fingerprinty and very dusty very, very quickly. So I'm constantly wiping that down along with the center screen right here. So in the center console of the Polestar 2, there is one exposed cup holder, and there's actually a second one right here in the middle. However, this is probably my least favorite feature of the Polestar 2. I don't like that this is one kind of in an awkward position for you to grab a drink from, and I don't understand why they had to keep it hidden in here. There's plenty of space in this middle console that Polestar could have made better room for to include the second cup holder and make it more exposed. There's actually not a lot of storage space in the front of this vehicle. Now, there is a small little side pocket along each side of the console for the front passenger and then the driver's passenger as well. But again, it is exposed. You have a little bit more room in this corner of the driver's vehicle side by the door. But they really could have done a much better job with the space in the center console. I would have loved to see a few more hidden crevices and a few more areas that I could have hidden stuff in other than keeping another cup holder in there.
Running on Android 11, Polestar does seem to have updates quite often. We are actually more up to date right now than we were just last week because we did update this car. And there are logs, release logs. So we got version P2.1, I think last week on over-the-air updates. I do have to say, out of all the cars that we were looking at before we bought the Polestar 2, one of the reasons that led us to getting to buying this car was how they promised updates and how this company particularly is closer to Tesla than any of the other ones that we currently could get a car from. So the way they're doing updates, I'm pretty impressed with. Now, if we look into the actual driving stuff, very typical EV. There's not much difference here between this car and a lot of the other cars in terms of settings and how things work. One pedal drive is included on here. There's low, there's standard, and off. Lita and I really love one pedal drive. We only exclusively drive cars on one pedal drive, and we want the most amount of regen we can get. So standard on this car is pretty comparable to what Tesla has on theirs. So that's why it's a very easy transition for us to start driving this car after the Model 3 as well. When it comes to the assist things, we do have the Pilot package, which is an additional add-on. And then here is our charging screen. Very simple, very simplistic. There's not much to complain here. It's very easy to present. And that's what I like about this car. It's very modern, very clean. And aesthetically, their car design language, the UI language, is just very simple.
Driving the Polestar 2 is a case of just enjoyment. It is a very good driving experience. I found the P2 to drive exceedingly stable on the road. It steers moderately stiff on sharp turns, resulting in less body roll and for a more leveled transition. I would even describe the car as driving a bit bulky for its size. You do feel rather sturdy driving the car. That's a good way to explain it. Whereas some other cars that I've driven, like the Model 3, feels a little light and nimble. This car does feel like a tank on the road. I do feel exceptionally in control of the car in basically every scenario on the road that I've encountered, at least here in California. Of course, this isn't an off-roading car, though. I can't necessarily say the same about every car I've owned in my life, and many of them were in this luxury segment. The one major complaint I do have with the driving experience is limited rear window visibility. It's narrow to the point where it just doesn't make sense from an ergonomic standpoint. The P2's rear visibility is encroaching on like coupe levels of tightness. We also have the Pilot package, which includes their Pilot Assist, and I earnestly can say that it's substantially behind many of the EV competitors. Like enabling and disabling the assist features are all located on the right-hand side of the steering wheel, and controlling of the speed and distance is actually pretty well incorporated for drivers to use here. I like it more than how Hyundai and Kia do it. However, the Polestar falls significantly behind in the lane centering department. I won't go into detail in this video, as I promise not to mention the other company, the one starting with a T, until I make another video. But the difference in my adaptive cruise control experience between my two EVs on the same freeway commute every day is it's night and day. It's not even comparable. The Polestar 2 struggles with the slightest deviation from a straight trajectory, and it's gotten so bad, and it's bounced between the left and the right lanes so much, especially in freeways here in Southern California, that Lita has completely stopped using it because it's just deviated off our lane too many times. So they could do a lot better there, but I am at least looking forward to improvements. To many drivers, this will mean absolutely nothing to them, as manual control of vehicle is what they live to drive. But for drivers like me who just want to get from point A to point B with the least amount of stress and hassle, then a reliable adaptive cruise control system is essentially, what I want in a vehicle. In conclusion, basically what we think is that the Polestar 2 is a terrific car, not just an EV, but terrific car in general. It might not be the perfect car, nothing's perfect out there, but it does a lot of great things for the EV space. And I am very excited to see where Polestar goes from here. And once again, if you want to go more in-depth and learn more about the car, I do have a more in-depth review at Sypnotix.com, so head over there. There's also a lot of other great reviews from voices other than Lita and myself. We have great contributors there reviewing things. A lot of you guys actually click on those articles from like Sari, Martin, Zeev, and Michelle. Like, they have really great stuff. And if you like our video content, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Like this video and leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think of the Polestar brand and the cars in general. Once again, I'm Alex from Sypnotix. That was Lita. I'll see you guys in the next video.
So the other day, I was on a Zoom call at work. And I just dropped everything I was saying and I told them, subscribe.